everyone, I'm Rita Kakati-Shah, your host for The Uma Show. Welcome to your one-stop journey for feeling empowered. We're a platform for change. We build confidence. We are your voice. We want you to be bold, be you, be Uma. Today, we're exploring women in business, and I'm so excited to be joined by our goddess of go-getting, Ira Ray, who is joining us from New York, and she is one of the co-founders of Salute. Welcome, Ira. How are you today?
Good, Rita. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited to chat with you all.
Absolutely. We want to hear all about you today. So talk to us a little bit about where you were born and how you grew up.
Yeah, an interesting one, Rita. So I was actually born in India, but actually it's funny. Before even joining elementary school, I had lived in Kenya, in Thailand. And then my dad had this amazing opportunity to come to the United States. And it was funny. He had three places he could end up: New York City, Washington, D.C., or Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So I actually ended up being in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for 10 years of my life. So when I think about, I was born in India. I consider home Virginia because that's where my parents live now. But I actually grew up in South Dakota. And that was the first experience I had in the United States. And my elementary school, middle school, like I said, through high school was there, which I think is quite unique.
That's super interesting. And the fact that you call home something different and you grew up somewhere different, You've had a really kind of eclectic upbringing on that. So talk to us a little bit about your studies. Certainly from South Asian backgrounds, from Indian backgrounds, education is a big part of our upbringings. So tell us a bit about what you studied.
Yeah. So I went to undergrad at Carnegie Mellon and I was a business undergrad. I'll be honest, Rita, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I had two siblings, my sisters, that I really looked up to. My dad was an academic. I know we'll talk a little bit about my career path, but I ended up in consulting for so long because that is somewhere that I felt like I really got exposure to so many different business problems, industries, functions. So as an undergrad in business, I worked in consulting for several years, and then I ended up getting my MBA at Wharton, also, of course, in business. And now, I know we'll talk about this, but now I'm in beauty, but have always been on the business side of things in terms of my work and the functions that I've supported.
And that's super interesting. How did you know you wanted to go into business in the first place?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a wayward path, Rita. I actually thought about like what excited me. So outside of actually thinking of it from a work perspective, what I loved was solving problems. And I loved working with people. And, I went to Carnegie Mellon, which is a very computer science engineering school. They have a fabulous business undergrad program as well. But I remember going to Carnegie Mellon and starting a math minor because I was like, I love solving problems. And then I realized what I missed from that, what you do as a consultant, regardless of which area you're working in, is you're helping your clients, whether that's a company, whether that's a person, whatever it is, really solve problems. And you're really working with people to enable change. And that's when I realized like, that's what really excited me. So I think, for me, it was, yes, business, but within that, what I really, and my advice, we'll talk about this later, would be really finding within that what you get energy from. And it was kind of building those things together that really led me on my path that I'm on today and where I am today.
Yeah, and absolutely. So speaking of your path, talk to us a bit about how your career journey formed. It certainly sounded like you knew from early on the sort of direction and what you were passionate about. So talk to us a little bit about that journey of yours, that career journey.
Yes. And it was, I would say like a 10-year journey, because to your point, Rita, in the beginning, I knew what I liked from in terms of working with people and problem solving, but I hadn't quite found what excited me from a topic perspective. So I started in financial services and worked at IBM as a consultant. I was doing a lot of more technical work. And I realized that I wasn't excited by the content that I was engaging in. So I actually took a lot of time. Like I went to business school. I did an unpaid internship in fashion. I knew I would think about that. I did some gigs here and there. And then I found myself again consulting at McKinsey, but I focused 100% on consumer and retail clients. And then within that, I found beauty. I really fell in love with the industry and beauty, and now I work at Estee Lauder. So it's been a path, I will say. I started with what excited me in my day-to-day work. And then once I found that, I really started thinking about, okay, what does that mean from an industry function perspective? And now, it took me some time, but I feel like I found the intersection of the both, because now I do strategy at Estee Lauder. And, I'm really happy with where I am and feel like I found the best of both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. And just tell us a little bit, take a little bit of a step back. So obviously from business and then you went into beauty. So you had an interest in beauty. Is that what made you decide you wanted to kind of go into that area, or what was that? Because that's quite a big of a jump, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would say, so when I was in consulting, I was working with a lot of beauty clients and, helping them, I talked about the problem solving piece, but helping them solve problems in beauty. Whether that is, how do I launch a brand, whether it's, how do I make money with my brand, whether it's, am I playing in the right subcategories? How do I win with consumers? Should I go to Sephora? Should I go to Walmart? I'm making up things. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And I found that it actually, Rita, also excited me from a personal perspective. So yes, I loved what I was doing at work, but as a beauty consumer, I mean, that's what I loved beauty, right? Like outside of like wearing lipstick, but you engage with the product all the time. Like I would get really excited because I'd be working with one of my clients and then I'd go to a CVS or a Sephora or whatever, and I'd see their products and I'd see those things that I was working on come to life. And that's something that, frankly, I missed in my past when I was working with financial services clients. It was just hard for me to get excited about it from a personal front. So that's kind of that transition, and where, I think I love it because it kind of brings both my personal and professional passions together. And it's, it's a very exciting space too.
No, absolutely. And I think to your point, you're bringing your passion with actually being closer to your clients, and that actually helps the problem solving element. And speaking of your clients and your passions, you've done a lot of work with women, specifically women in leadership. So now pivoting to your current project, I should say, talk to us about Salute. Let's start with, what does Salute stand for?
Yes. So Salute stands for South Asian Ladies Unite to Empower. And we call it Salute in short. Yeah.
Amazing.
So should I tell you,
what
Rita?
Exactly is that?
Yes, absolutely. So Rita, I mean, I'll be honest, like my co-founders and I have been we're thinking about Salute for the last couple of years. And then we finally got together and made it happen. But, one thing that I've found throughout my journey, whether that's right out of college to where I am today, is just the power of your networks and supporting one another, wherever you find it, whether it's your work colleagues, whether it's friends and family, whether it's, mentors and sponsors at work, whatever it is, and people really creating opportunities for you. And one of the things that I felt was that there was a gap in that with South Asian women. So, I'll give you my experience in beauty, but as I was considering my switch from consulting to working in a beauty company, which was a big jump, moving from consulting to industry, I started looking into who's who, and I saw that there were so many amazing South Asian women in beauty at various levels, everything from like the chief digital officer of Ulta to, more junior roles across the spectrum. And what I found is like, I was inspired, but I also thought, like, why don't I know about this? Or why isn't there more of a community around this? Like, why is it that I'm having to go into LinkedIn or really search for these people? And, again, like I mentioned, people create opportunities for you, and that's how you excel. So Salute is, I would say, two things. One is we built Salute to build a network and a forum for South Asian female leaders to connect with one another, regardless of where you are. I shared my experience in beauty, but we have healthcare workers, we have people who work in social impact, we have, entrepreneurs across the spectrum. So one is really giving you just a forum and a platform to connect with one another on whatever topic it is, both personal and professional. And then the second is really helping that personal and professional development. So, some of what Salute does is we have amazing fireside chats with leaders. So you can really learn from their journey, ask them those raw questions. We are a small group, so it's meant to create intimate connections. We do executive coaching sessions. We do ask me anything sessions with various leaders. So really giving opportunities for South Asian females to learn and grow together in a community and learning and growing from one another. So
yeah, that's absolutely fascinating and so needed. So can you tell us, why do you think Salute and other leadership platforms for women, especially needed specifically for South Asian?
Yeah, very good question. I think a couple of things, Rita. I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there, but when I felt, at least, there was a gap in terms of even just having this type of platform. Again, I see a lot of South Asian women making connections with one another through their personal connections, work or whatnot, but I don't want to use the word formal, but no structured environment for that. And frankly, Rita, I actually think one of the other things is, what the beauty of being a South Asian female leader is, because of our motivation, because of where so many of us come from, like we're all very privileged and very successful, but I don't always think that we support each other enough. And I don't mean to generalize that, because of course some people do, but I think that was my observation. And I've seen other affinity groups, regardless of, what affinity group, but other affinity groups do that better. So that was something that me and my co-founders really wanted to help fill that gap by providing this opportunity to do that. So we launched Salute this year. We continue to grow. We're really excited by what we're building. And I know there's a lot more to come as well.
Fabulous. And congratulations again on the launch.
Thank you.
And I love that, because when you launch any business and you start it, there are usually challenges along the way in some form or other. Could you share with us a challenge that you had and what you did to come about it?
Yeah. So Salute's an interesting one in terms of the challenge, because we started with, literally a white piece of paper, which is great. It's fun, but you can make this whatever you want. When my co-founders and I started it, and there was a lot of debate on, for example, Salute is a closed membership community. There was a lot of debate on, like, should we do that? Is that making it harder for some people to join? There's a membership fee. Is that going to really make it harder for people to join, or create a barrier for people to join? And there was a lot of questions on, like, what do we want to be? I mean, I mentioned to you that our members are everything from healthcare workers to business leaders to social impact folks. It's hard to be something for everything. So there were a lot of questions on, like, should we be super focused? Should we be broad? I think, that I found challenging on aligning on that. And I'll admit we're still grappling with some of those questions. But in the end, what we decided was we did want to create an intimate community. So, I always say quality over quantity. I'd rather have fewer members and more meaningful connections than hundreds of members, but people really don't feel like they have a space for themselves. And that's a choice. I don't think there's a right or wrong either way, but that's the choice that we made. So that was one thing. Yeah. I think, we thought about, like, should we make this industry specific? I mean, my background, as you heard, is very business focused. My co-founder is also in marketing, so a little bit more on the business side, but a different path than mine. So we thought about that as well. But then we said, there's so many, for example, South Asian females crushing it in the healthcare space or social impact space, or you name it. And we wanted to also create a forum for that. So it makes it challenging sometimes, because, again, what you as a healthcare worker might want versus social impact worker might be different. But the goal is to, find a joint mission around the community and support versus necessarily industry or function things. So that's still a challenge. We're still working on it day to day, week to week. But, I'm excited that we've aligned on a set of goals per se.
Absolutely. And that is one of the challenges, but also strengths and beauties of starting something new for the first time. You get to shape it. And it's part of that shaping journey that is exciting and yet challenging at the same time, as you beautifully expressed there. So you are doing so many things, Era. You have so much on your plate right now. What do you do to relax?
Good question. So I will admit, and don't make fun of me, I love trash TV, like Netflix, like all those silly shows on Netflix and all. So I love TV.
I'm right there with you.
I love it. I need, like, after like a long day where you've been using your brain so much, I need something brainless. No, but outside of that, I love exploring my neighborhood, New York City. Like, one of the things I love about New York is coffee shops, restaurants. I know, Rita, you've spent a lot of time in the city, so you know that as well. So I really try to spend my time exploring the city. I'll try to explore a new coffee shop whenever I can, all those types of things. I get a lot of energy from people. I think I mentioned that even in work, but in my personal life as well. So I spend a lot of time with friends and family when I can. And I think those are the things I do for energy. I love food. So I'm always, like, looking for a new restaurant to try.
Yeah.
I think the big theme is just, like, exploration and just, like, spending time with, people who give me energy as well, like friends and family. So.
No, absolutely. So well said there. Before we let you go, what advice would you give to any young girls or women who are watching the show today who want to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah. I think 2 pieces of advice, if that's okay. So one, Rita, I think patience. What I find a lot of times when I'm talking to younger folks who are obviously very smart and motivated, is they want to solve everything immediately. Like, I have to get that perfect job right out of college. I need to go to this business school immediately. Why haven't I got my promotion yet? And that's good. I think it's super, super important to be motivated and have like a goals and a plan. But I think sometimes it's also important that you need to realize you have to put work in, and it does take time to get to those things. Like, I consider myself very lucky and happy about my journey, but I started in IT consulting and now I do strategy at a beauty company. Like, that's a big jump. And there were like steps that got me there. So I think, be motivated, be aggressive, be excited about what you're doing, but realize that like sometimes it may take time, and have the patience to do that. And then secondly, I think is, spend time figuring out what it is that is giving you energy. And I think this is related to the patience piece. Like, it took me some time to figure out that it was beauty that I loved, right? And I dabbled in different industries and I dabbled in different functions. And, for me, it was an unpaid internship. For me, it was coffee chats with a lot of people who were doing work in the spaces that I thought I was interested in. In some cases, I realized I was interested in that after talking to someone, in some cases not. So spend time on trying to figure that out, because some people know right away. Some people, it takes a little bit of time, but do put that effort in, because I think it can in your career.
So well said. Thank you so much, Ira, for sharing your inspiring journey with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me, Rita.
You are so, so welcome. And also thank you to our viewers for joining us on this journey. We want you all to embrace that inner goddess of go-getting. We want you to be bold, be you, be Uma.